Hey, hey, hey. Time for another out-of-this-world story from rSpace. People you've never met sometimes piece together the puzzle you thought you had solved. They spot the cracks in your story, the hidden messages you missed, the partners you were too close to see. Today on rSpace, when strangers know the truth about your marriage before you do. I got an anonymous message. My wife's cheating, so I crashed their hotel meetup. I never expected to be one of those guys writing about their cheating wife on Reddit, but here I am. It's been a hell of a ride these past few weeks, and I need to get this off my chest. It all started with an email. Just a random message in my inbox with the subject line, "Your wife is cheating on you." At first, I thought it was spam or some sick joke. The message claimed to be from the spouse of the person my wife was supposedly sleeping with. There weren't any details, just an accusation. 2 days later, another email arrived from the same address, this time with screenshots of text messages between Aria and someone saved as work friend in her phone. The texts weren't explicitly sexual, but they were definitely flirtatious. Lots of "can't wait to see you" and "missing you already" type messages. The sender claimed there was more evidence and that our spouses had been carrying on for months. I sat on this information for a day, trying to decide what to do. Looking back, I should have seen the signs. Aria had been acting different for months, working late more often, being super protective of her phone, never leaving it unattended, less interested in sex, and taking more girls' nights and work trips than usual. Classic cheater behavior, but I'd been too trusting to see it. I decided not to confront her right away. If she was cheating, I wanted solid proof before making accusations. So I started paying closer attention to her behavior, and sure enough, the red flags were everywhere. She'd take calls in another room, suddenly care about her appearance more than usual, and was generally distant. Then she announced she had a 3-day conference in Chicago next month. The timing lined up perfectly with what the anonymous emailer had mentioned. I nodded and acted normal. A few days later, the anonymous sender contacted me again, this time with hotel reservation details showing Aria and their spouse had booked adjoining rooms at the Marriott in Chicago. While she was in the shower one morning, I checked her phone. I found deleted text messages in her trash folder that confirmed everything. She was having an affair with some guy named Eric. There were explicit photos and detailed plans for their Chicago meetup. Reading those messages felt like getting punched in the stomach repeatedly. The woman I'd been married to for 7 years was planning a sex-filled weekend with another man, discussing positions and fantasies they wanted to try. I put her phone back exactly where it was and acted normal when she came out of the shower. It was the hardest performance of my life, pretending everything was fine while my world was collapsing. I spent the next day looking up this Eric guy online. Turned out he was married with 2 kids. I found his wife's contact information through some social media digging. I reached out to her and she confirmed, and she was the anonymous sender. She'd been tracking their affair for weeks and had gathered extensive evidence. We agreed to meet in person a few days later. She brought a folder full of evidence, hotel receipts, photos of them together from previous meetups, credit card statements showing gifts purchased. It was overwhelming. This wasn't a one-time thing or a recent development. They'd been carrying on for at least 6 months, maybe longer. Eric's wife and I developed a plan. We would confront them during the Chicago trip. She wanted to expose them simultaneously to prevent them from warning each other and coordinating their lives. I agreed it was the best approach. When the day came for Aria to leave for her conference, I kissed her goodbye and told her I'd be busy with a project so I might not be able to talk much. She seemed relieved. The next day I flew to Chicago without telling anyone. I checked into the same hotel but on a different floor. Eric's wife and I coordinated by text. She had somehow obtained a key card to their room through her connections. She knew someone who worked at the hotel. We planned to enter the room at 8:30 p.m. when we knew they'd be there based on their previous patterns. At the appointed time, I stood outside their door with Eric's wife. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst through my chest. She handed me the key card and I took a deep breath before sliding it into the lock. The door opened and there they were, in bed together. The look on Aria's face when she saw me standing in the doorway is something I'll never forget. Pure shock. She scrambled to cover herself while Eric jumped up, frantically looking for his clothes. I just stood there taking photos with my phone as evidence. Then I looked Aria in the eye and said, "Don't come home. I'll have your things packed." And I walked out. Eric's wife went in after me for her own confrontation. I didn't stick around to hear it. I flew home the next morning and immediately changed the locks. I packed Aria's essential belongings and dropped them off with her sister. I didn't go into detail with her sister, just said that Aria had been unfaithful and I had proof. The calls and texts started flooding in almost immediately. Accusations that I had invaded her privacy and desperate attempts to explain that it wasn't what it looked like. I blocked her number after the first day. I contacted a divorce attorney and started the process. I also informed our immediate families about what happened before Aria could spin the narrative. Her parents were shocked, but not as surprised as I expected. Turns out she cheated on boyfriends before me, something they'd never thought to mention. The hardest part has been the loneliness. Coming home to an empty house, sleeping alone in our bed, but I know I made the right decision. There's no coming back from this. The calculated deception, the months of lies, the complete disregard for our marriage vows. It's unforgivable. Some friends have suggested I should hear her out, that maybe we could work through this with counseling. But I'm not interested. I've seen the real Aria now, the one who could look me in the eye day after day while betraying me in the most intimate way possible. I deserve better than that. The divorce proceedings are underway. I'm hoping for a clean break with minimal drama, but knowing Aria, that might be wishful thinking. She's never been good at accepting consequences for her actions. Eric's wife and I are still in contact occasionally. She's also filing for divorce. So that's my story. Not the happiest one, but I'm sharing it because it helped me to write it all out. And maybe it will help someone else who's going through something similar. I'm not sure what the future holds, but I know it will be better. The pain is still fresh, but it gets a little easier each morning. I'm rediscovering who I am outside of being Aria's husband. And you know what? I kind of like that guy. I've been getting a lot of support from this community, and I appreciate all the kind words and advice. I'll post an update when anything noteworthy happens. Thanks for reading my story. Honestly, the best part is how you just calmly told her, don't come home. It's got to be lonely and painful right now, but it sounds like you're already starting to find your own footing again. Also, teaming up with Eric's wife? Honestly, that's some next level power move. Sometimes the worst situations bring the weirdest allies. Update 1. It's been a few weeks. First off, Aria showed up at her house, well, my house now, 3 days after the hotel confrontation. She was crying and demanding to talk. I refused to let her in, which led her to screaming on the front lawn for about 20 minutes. The neighbors got quite a show that day. Eventually she left, but not before calling me every name in the book. So much for her remorse. The next day, her sister reached out to me. She tried to convince me that Aria was devastated and deserved a second chance. I didn't waste time with words. I just sent her the photos from the hotel room. Haven't heard from her since. I received the divorce papers from my attorney shortly after. The process of documenting assets and preparing for financial separation began in earnest. My lawyer advised me to gather all financial records and create a comprehensive list of our marital property. It's amazing how much paperwork is involved in dismantling a marriage. About a week later, I received a 12-page handwritten letter from Aria. She went into excruciating detail about how I supposedly drove her to cheat by working too much and not being emotionally available. Classic blame shifting. I didn't even finish reading it before tossing it in the trash. I'm not taking responsibility for her decisions. She chose to cheat instead of communicating or leaving if she was unhappy. Eric's wife has been keeping me updated on their situation. Apparently, Eric confessed to multiple affairs throughout their marriage. Aria wasn't his first or only side piece. They're also divorcing, and we've agreed to share evidence if needed for our respective proceedings. Her parents contacted me last week. They were initially hostile, clearly having heard only Aria's version of events. After I showed them the evidence, their attitude completely changed. They actually apologized to me and admitted that Aria has had fidelity issues in previous relationships. Would have been nice to know that before I married her, I guess. A coworker informed me that Aria and Eric are now openly dating. They're telling people they found each other after their marriages were already over, rewriting history to make themselves look better. It's pathetic but predictable. They deserve each other. The divorce has gotten contentious. Aria is demanding half of everything, including my inheritance from my grandfather, which legally isn't marital property. My lawyer assured me she has no claim to it, but she's fighting anyway. She seems determined to take me for everything she can. Eric's wife called me yesterday with some interesting news. She caught Aria at their family home while she was out. Aria had been there taking items that belonged to Eric's wife. A police report has been filed. The latest development came when her lawyer contacted me with a settlement offer that would give her 70% of our assets. My lawyer countered with a fair 50-50 split of actual marital assets. Her lawyer is trying to argue that she sacrificed career opportunities during our marriage, which is complete nonsense. She's been working full-time throughout our relationship and has never turned down a promotion or opportunity because of me. Yesterday, when I received a threatening text from Eric, warning me to back off and accept Aria's settlement terms, I forwarded it to my lawyer and Eric's wife. My lawyer is considering using it as harassment in our proceedings. I'll post another update when the divorce is finalized or if anything happens. Thanks again for all the support. Update 2. Sorry for the delay in updating. A lot has happened and I needed time to process everything. Aria's lawyer withdrew her unreasonable settlement demands after seeing the evidence packaged my attorney prepared. The photos from the hotel room, the text messages, and Eric's threatening text message created a compelling case that made her position untenable. My lawyer told me her attorney practically winced when reviewing the evidence. We scheduled a mediation session to try to resolve things without a full court battle. Aria showed up with Eric in tow, which immediately created tension in the room. The mediator wasn't having it and asked him to leave before we could begin. Eric's wife has kept me updated on their divorce proceedings. Apparently they had a prenup, which is working in her favor. Eric is losing most of his assets and his access to their children is being limited due to his behavior during and after the affair. Karma. The situation got even more interesting when Aria lost her job. Her company discovered she'd been falsifying expense reports to cover hotel meetups with Eric. She had the audacity to blame me for ruining her life when she called to tell me about it. Her sister contacted me again recently. She revealed that Aria has moved in with Eric, but things are already rocky between them. We finally reached a settlement agreement that's fair to both parties. We're dividing our assets 50-50 with no alimony due to the short duration of our marriage and the infidelity evidence. I signed the final divorce papers last week. My ex didn't even show up. Her lawyer handled everything. It was anticlimactic after all the drama, but I felt an enormous weight lift off my shoulders as I walked out of the attorney's office. I'm legally single again. Eric's wife called me yesterday with some interesting gossip. Apparently Eric has already cheated on Aria with another coworker. Aria doesn't know yet. I almost feel very sorry for her. Almost. She's reaping what she sowed. A few nights ago, I received a barrage of texts from Aria. She was clearly drunk, saying she made a terrible mistake and wanted to talk about reconciliation. I didn't respond. There's nothing to say. A friend spotted Aria and Eric having a screaming match at a restaurant downtown. Apparently Eric called her used goods and stormed out, leaving her to pay the bill. Again, not my circus, not my monkeys. She eventually showed up at my new apartment unannounced last week. Thankfully, the building has good security, and they didn't let her in. She caused quite a scene in the lobby, yelling that I needed to talk to her. The security footage is now part of my documentation in case I need a restraining order. The final divorce decree arrived in the mail yesterday. In the meantime, my cheating ex has created multiple fake social media accounts to harass me since the divorce was finalized. I've documented everything and reported it to the authorities. My lawyer is considering filing for a restraining order if it continues. On a positive note, I'm moving to another state for a new job. I've been packing up the apartment with help from several friends. They commented on how much better I seem compared to a few months ago. The dark circles under my eyes are gone and I'm sleeping through the night again. Time really does heal. As I was loading the moving truck yesterday, Aria appeared on the sidewalk. She begged for another chance, saying Eric was a mistake and she'd realized what she threw away. I simply told her goodbye and drove away, leaving her standing there. It felt like the final scene in a movie I never wanted to be in. I'm writing this from a hotel halfway to my new home. For the first time in months, I feel genuinely optimistic about the future. The pain isn't gone completely, but it's fading. I'm looking forward to building a new life where trust and honesty are non-negotiable. Here's to new beginnings. The layers keep peeling back. Eric's multiple affairs, Aria's job troubles, her fake social media accounts. They just keep digging that hole deeper for themselves. Karma's doing its thing, and moving to a new state for a fresh start? That sounds like exactly what you need. Update 3, 6 months later. It's been about 6 months, guys. I've settled into my new city and job, and honestly, life has been pretty good. The distance has given me perspective and accelerated my healing process more than I expected. Just when I thought I was completely free of Aria's drama, she found a way to inject herself back into my life. Last month, I received a letter from her, not an email or text, an actual letter that I had to sign for. Real dramatic. Inside was a sob story about how her life had fallen apart since our divorce. Apparently, Eric dumped her for another woman just 3 months after they moved in together. Shocking, right? A guy who cheats with you will cheat on you. Who could have possibly predicted that? She lost their apartment because she couldn't afford the rent alone. Her credit is destroyed from unpaid bills and the loan they took out for their fresh start together. The kicker? She included her bank account information and asked for a loan to help her get back on her feet. No specific amount, just whatever I could find it in my heart to give her. The audacity is almost impressive. I didn't respond and went about my day. A week later, her sister called me. She started with small talk, asking me how I was doing, before working her way to the real purpose of the call. She explained that Aria was in dire straits and needed help. While I remained silent, she got more specific. Aria needed $5,000 to secure a new apartment and avoid being homeless. I laughed. I couldn't help it. I asked her sister if she remembered how Aria had tried to take me for 70% of our assets in the divorce, how she'd spread lies about me being abusive, how she'd shown up at my apartment causing scenes, how she'd created fake accounts to harass me online. Her sister had the decency to sound embarrassed. She mumbled something about she's having learned the lesson and being a different person now. I told her that Aria's housing situation wasn't my problem anymore. That's what divorce means. I suggested she ask Eric for help instead, since he was the one she had thrown away our marriage for. 2 days later, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I answered thinking it might be related to work. It was Eric. He launched into a rehearsed sounding speech about how Aria was suffering and how I should be the bigger man and help her out. I cut him off mid-sentence. "Let me get this straight," I said. "You slept with my wife, broke up my marriage, moved her in with you, then dumped her for someone else, and now you're calling to tell me I should give her money? Are you high?" He started stammering about how it was complicated and how I never meant to hurt anyone. I hung up on him, then I blocked his number. The next day I got an email from Aria's workplace email. She claimed she was hitting rock bottom and had nowhere else to turn. She said she was sorry for everything and had realized what a mistake she'd made. She just needed a little help to get back on her feet, and then she'd leave me alone forever. I forwarded the email to her HR department with a brief note explaining that she was using company resources to harass her ex-husband. I received an automated reply that the matter would be investigated. 2 days later, I learned through a former colleague that Aria had been given a formal warning for misuse of company resources. Yesterday, Eric's wife called to catch up. She's doing great. Their divorce is finalized, she got the house and primary custody of the kids, and she's dating a guy who treats her well. She mentioned that Eric had contacted her recently, also asking for money. Apparently his new relationship crashed and burned too, and he's struggling financially. She told him to pound sand. We had a good laugh about how karma works. 2 cheaters who thought they were riding off into the sunset together, now separately begging their exes for handouts. You can't make this stuff up. As for me, I've started dating again. My new place is coming together nicely. I bought all the new furniture. I got a promotion at work last month. The raise was substantial enough that I treated myself to a 2-week vacation in Europe. The pain doesn't last forever. This will be my final update on this situation. Here's to living your best life. It truly is the sweetest revenge. Aria's dramatic letter and audacious loan request? Ha. And Eric calling to ask you for money? Literally, what? You shut that down perfectly. Beyond all of that, Eric's wife sounds like she's doing great, and good on her for cutting them off. Honestly, it's satisfying to hear they're both facing the consequences of their own mess. Cheers to new beginnings and better days ahead. Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today on rSpace. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. See you soon.